Recording in progress.
That's okay. All right, glasses. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good to go. Okay, we're going to open the regular meeting of the Council of San Benito County Governments, Thursday, February 15th, 2024 at 4:02. Let's see, can we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, I'll do the roll call.
Okay.
Chair Friels,
Here?
Vice Chair Casey,
Here.
Director Morales, Director Kuro,
Here.
Director Sotelo.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Awesome. Welcome. Okay, verification of posting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay. Public comment. We do have public comment from Joe Thompson right here. And is there any other public comment? These would be on items not on the agenda.
There are no speaker cards and no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, excellent. Consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything off the consent? Anybody from the public want to pull anything off consent? None?
No hands raised.
Okay. Motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda? I'll second.
Okay. That was stereo. All in favor? Did you second also?
Yeah.
No, it was you. It was perfect timing.
Unison?
Yeah, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay. We have, this is nice, there's no action items today, just all informational items. Number 7, receive update on the purpose and development of the Metropolitan and Regional Transportation Plan.
All right, afternoon board. Happy to be here for my first time presenting an informational item. I know we have some new faces here, myself included, so I thought it'd be a good chance to introduce the Metropolitan Plan and the Regional Transportation Plan. First off, starting, the Regional Transportation Plan and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan are really the cornerstone documents for our planning activities. They run on a 25-year forecast, essentially, of all the planning activities that we're going to do. It touches on a lot of the different dimensions and elements that get worked into our planning, and it's a comprehensive document, truly. They seek to address basically everything that we might get our hands on and a little bit of everything. Additionally, these documents are quite essential for our organization and for us to get funding from state and federal agencies. Essentially, these documents prove that we are taking a holistic approach to what we're doing. We are thinking about everything that might come up, and it just, proves to these agencies, these funding agencies, that we have a grip on what we're doing. So to start off, just to introduce kind of the ecosystem that these documents live in, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan is headed and developed by AMBAG, while the regional transportation plans are the responsibility of the regional planning agencies, us included. primarily, while each agency is responsible for their document, we do work in concert with each other, and we help each other out very much so in this process. The MTP headed by AMBAG, they look to the regional transportation planning agencies for more insight on county activities. They, stuff that they might not have a beat on that we here in the local, more local setting do. And AMBAG helps us develop our RTPs because they have more technical experience and the capacity to help us develop some of the more statistical modeling and detailed graphics. So, and we're constantly in partnership with each other when we're developing these. So that is said. All right, and because we are the regional planning agency, the primary focus of this presentation and informational item is going to be on the RTPs themselves. They're big documents, 200 pages, there's 8 chapters or so, a ton of appendices. To go over everything that these documents have would be quite a task. So for the purposes of this presentation, I broke it down into about 3 sections. First, the RTP addresses understanding San Benito County. It touches on the geography, the economy, and the demographics. The second part is the RTP provides a pretty concise and clear assessment of the travel conditions currently in our county and in the future. And the third kind of part of the RTP is transportation projects and funding patterns. And while these two are structured differently, the MTP and the RTP are very similar in terms of content. Both documents work in concert with each other, and they address much of the same material, just in different scope. So to carry on with this informational item, I'm going to show you some of the graphics and use that as a way to kind of describe the information that's within the RTP, starting with understanding San Benito County. Establishing the physical setting and geographic positioning of San Benito County is very important. Understanding where we are in relation to the Bay Area, places like Monterey and Pinnacles, and then our proximity to the Central Valley and our role as a trade corridor of such. Getting a grip on this stuff is, kind of like the backbone of just like beginning to engage in planning activities, I would say. Demographics and the people that live here and how that's going to change is also an essential dynamic to planning. The RTP covers who lives here and how many people live here and what's going to happen with these populations. For example, as planners, it's essential to know where the growth in our county is happening, where it's not happening, and that very much informs how we go about our business. And finally, for this section, it's the economy. The economy very much is reflective of the geography and the population of the place. So the RTP includes graphics, that detail low-income and minority areas, county employment forecasts. This stuff is, informative for us because if our economy is growing, we have to associate that to our planning. What type of growth? Are we expecting more trucks and freight? Are we expecting more tourism? Looking into all those dynamics is pretty important. Thank you. All right. The second part of the RTP that I'm going to cover is the assessment of travel conditions, current and future transportation patterns. The RTP provides a snapshot of the existing facilities that make up the county's transportation network, the conditions and capacity of the county's transportation network. So here I've included a graphic of, commuters. That's one of the major things that the RTP looks at, and as planners here, it's, one of the key problems that we are faced with tackling in this county. We have a huge percentage of commuters. I think here it says, 12,000 so commuters. I don't know how closely we were all paying attention to the last graphic, but we only have that's like 40 to 50% of the total employment of the county itself. So that's represents a pretty large number, and the RTP addresses that and puts it in a clear format. So when we're planning, we could reference the RTP. And a little bit more on the commuter side of things, it provides information on travel time to work and how that breakdown of travel time to work looks. most of our commuters in the county, a majority of them travel more than 30 minutes. And that's important. You know, I think a lot of our minds are on the 25 project right now. And as things go, it's important to understand where these commuters are headed, and that will inform the decisions that we begin to plan with. So the RTP is a very useful document in that respect. And an assessment of travel conditions. You know, the RTP doesn't just look at the county as a whole. It looks at some of our major individual arteries, you know, State Route 156, 25, US 101. Here I've displayed a graphic of, you know, the average daily traffic counts on 25. And you can see in, you know, past 5 years or so, that's really exploded. And then it also provides information on our pavement condition index. San Benito County, the pavement condition in our county is below the state average significantly, and that's why we're in red as opposed to some of the other counties in the state. And that, you know, just is information that informs us that our planning priorities should be addressing stuff like that. Transportation projects and funding. This is a bit of the fun part. So the RTP, within the RTP is a project list. We'll reach out to the local jurisdictions, and they submit project lists to both the RTP and the MTP. These project lists are essential, not only because they, you know, for planning purposes, but these projects need to be included in this document in order for eligibility for funding. So that's you know, a major component of this document. Here I've described. I put graphics from the RTP that detail our transportation costs, projected revenues, and then a breakdown of you know, what those costs look like by transportation project type. So that's the key material that's within the RTP. It's a comprehensive and cohesive planning document that, you know, is supposed to serve as the basis for what we do. It's a good reference document, not just for transportation planning, but really any type of planning. The information there is useful across the board. Currently, we're always working toward the next update and adoption of the RTP. All our work at COG does work toward that, but we are working on some more things that are specific to the RTP currently. One of those might be the environmental impact report. The environmental impact report presents a regional assessment of the impacts of the proposed 2050 MTP and RTP. Work on this is ongoing throughout the process. Everything that the RTP addresses, any of the projects, any of the plans, there's an environmental review for that. Currently, a lot of this EIR stuff is headed by AMBAG, but we are in close partnership with them as we go through this process and engage. And some of the other work we're doing currently, as I mentioned before, AMBAG does hold a lot of the technical prowess here and has the bandwidth to engage in some more detailed and quantitative endeavors that we just can't do in our office. So currently, COG staff is working in partnership with AMBAG to ensure modeling efforts reflect the reality of San Benito. These forecasts are influential in guiding future planning activities and funding opportunities. A little self-explanatory there, but the modeling and, you know, forecasting of sorts is, you know, an important aspect of this, and we all work together to make sure we've got the most clear and concise picture that goes into these documents. I think that's the end of my presentation.
Okay.
I would prompt you guys for questions, but I think you guys will have some.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for him? Well, we could, but we can go. We'll do public comment. Any public comment on it?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Okay. Okay. Questions?
So on the slide that shows the population growth, I haven't seen that type of, I think it's slide number 5. Yeah, the population growth. So where does that projection for the county come from? That's the unincorporated area
Yes.
of the county?
Correct.
Growing at that amount?
Correct.
Where does that projection come from?
All right, so that comes from both. So the county population forecast is rooted in census data. From the this RT also, I preface that all the graphics in this presentation are from the 2022 update. The 2022 update was still tied to the 2010 census. The current update that we're working on is tied to the 2020 census. So numbers will be a little bit more reflective and accurate this go around. How that number is developed and how that growth is developed. Currently, I believe the population forecasting model is very much tied to economic indicators and employment growth throughout the county. That is kind of how they go about determining population growth. I believe it also references the California Department of Finance and how they go about predicting population growth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I kind of had a similar question. I'm not going to ask anymore because you just kind of answered it with the graphics are tied to the 2022 model based on the 2010 census report. But I do have a question on kind of the EIR. Is there a cost associated with this? It sounds like it's just kind of an ongoing EIR. We don't ever stop. Like, how does that work? So every 4 years we have to do this. And so every 2 years, are we re-entering into a new EIR to study it? Or can you explain that part a little bit for me, please?
I could definitely take a stab at that, and it's ongoing as there's different components of the MTP and RTP, and as these components are developed, individual EIRs are done kind of in succession with the work that gets done. So we're not fully there. Currently, this is set to be adopted in 2026, so the whole process hasn't gone down. The EIR is a bit of a rolling process from my understanding currently.
And so will there be a cost associated with the EIR then?
Okay, I can take a stab at it. We also have Heather, who is the project manager for the MTP from AMBAG online, so she can take more detailed questions, but I can get started. So how it works is that every time we do an MTP or an RTP update, we also have to do an EIR. So we hire a consultant, and then we do scoping plans, and the EIR works starts somewhere in the middle of the process, and it takes 2 years to complete the whole thing because that's how long it takes for us to do all the factors that go into this MTP RTP update, including how much we are going to grow, how much funding we can reasonably predict or assume for 20 years, and all, and how much the land use development is going to happen, and where is it going to happen reasonably that we can assume in the next 20 years. Once we have all that, the EIR consultant will work on it, and they will wrap it up by 2026, and we go out for public comments. Because we are working in tandem with MTP or AMBAG, we don't have to take the full cost of the EIR. So between San Benito, Monterey County, Santa Cruz County, and AMBAG, we share the cost. It's proportional cost sharing. AMBAG takes the biggest bulk, and we, based on our area, we get a proportional cost. And I think we came to the board back in November. It was 50,000. Do you remember? 20,000. So our cost of the full EIR is only 20,000.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair Reels, we do have Heather Adamson has her hand raised.
Okay. Heather, do you have something to say?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, I wish I could have been there in person, but unfortunately I'm covering from COVID, so did not want to come in person today. In terms of the last question, the CEQA documents, AMBAG is the lead agency, and so for the joint EIR, it is a 4-agency EIR, and so COG is one of the responsible agencies. Executive Director Abraham is correct. We did enter into a cost-sharing agreement. This was done, I think we signed off on it. It was brought to your board, I think, in June of last year. And I believe we don't have any, because it's spread out over a couple years, it will show up in, I believe, your FY25 budget, your FY25 and your FY26 budget. It is a very large document, and it's a big cost savings for us to do a joint document between the three RTP agencies and between AMBAG. I did just want to go back and talk about the growth forecast because, as Samuel mentioned, that was the growth forecast that was used in the last adopted plan that was adopted back in 2022. And the growth forecast for that, keep in mind, was done before COVID hit. So there's a lot of things that's changed since COVID. Like the RTP and the MTP, we have to update our growth forecast every 4 years. So the AMBAG board is the lead overseeing that effort. Last month at their January meeting, they did approve the Tri-County 2050 regional growth numbers. So that's the total jobs, total housing units, and total population for the Tri-County area. We are now working to sub-allocate that to the jurisdiction level, so to all 21 jurisdictions. You will see, based on when we had conversations with county staff and both Hollister and San Juan Bautista staff, the perceptions of growth back in 2018 and 2019 were a lot different. And so we expect, even based on our growth projections, most of the state lost population during the pandemic. 2 out of the 3 counties in our region did lose population. San Benito County actually is one of the very few counties in the state that actually gained population during the pandemic. And so we have new information based on the census from Department of Finance, as well as economic or EDD data for the job employment data. And so we've been setting up meetings with all the jurisdictions. Those will start, some of them already started, they'll continue through the month of March, and a draft updated forecast for all jurisdictions is scheduled to be released later this spring, and we'll finalize it in the fall. So those numbers are still to come, and we're working behind the scenes on those details, and we do have meetings set up with all of your jurisdictions already. I believe most of them are happening in the month of March. So those will be updated. We do take input. All your jurisdictions have been working on housing elements. That is great data for us to use on where you're planning your future growth. And so we do meet multiple times. Over the last 2 cycles, we've had about 100 one-on-one meetings with local jurisdictions. So we come out, we sit down, we look over development plans, we talk about pipeline projects, all kinds of things. And so that is something that AMBAG does take the lead on, and it's very important to both planning the RTP process as well as the MTP process. Thank you.
Thank you. You get the $25 answer on that one. Good question. Any more questions? Yep. Another one? Yeah, of course.
Okay, because I'm really new, so I'm asking questions that may not be relevant, but I'm just curious about. So on slide number 9, is it possible to go to that? On your slides, it's the one that is an assessment and travel conditions with the map, and we're poor road conditions. Yeah, below average. That's not a whole lot of counties that are really in the red. How do we use that small pool of counties as kind of a way of potentially getting more funding? I'm just thinking that's a group of people I think we should be talking with to be able to say, look, everybody else is blue and we're red. So I'm just looking at it from how do we collaborate with these counties? What are they doing? And can we piggyback and kind of unite with some? I know they're not in our Caltrans area. I know they're not part of our AMBAG area, except for Monterey. And is that Monterey and Santa Cruz, or just Monterey? I think that's just Monterey. Okay, but that's telling. My only 2 cents on that.
I'd be curious, since that is 2018 and now we're in 2024, how many reds have been added?
Good point.
Yeah, but I would love to see us be able to leverage some funding to get some extra help for red counties.
Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Samuel. Okay, on to Information item 8, receive outline priorities for transit in the 2024.
I guess that's me. Well, I want to start off today with all of you to discuss transit and how we're going to approach it looking forward towards 2024. 2024 is a huge year for transit, and it's really a time for us to look at our operations, our transit operations, and see how we can improve them, not just keep them running, but fundamentally restructure them from a land use, connectivity to bike and pedestrian facilities, and performance measuring and productivity measuring standpoint. So where are we now? Our county is growing, and we need all options, all different types of tools when it comes to transportation to accommodate that growth. We are going to examine the mode share that we have currently in the county, and we want to explore various areas that we can look into to enhance the role of our public transportation in our community. So, who can we reach? We see it as an essential need to find out who isn't riding our service, in addition to surveying existing riders, why they're not riding it, and how we can change that. As of now, we have about less than 1% of commuters in the county using public transit. While commute trips aren't exactly everything, you could hope it would be a little bit higher. A surprising amount of people carpooled at 11.4%, and 12.10% walked or biked. But that 0.85, how can we change that? So we're focusing on productivity, land use, and safety. Now, I want to start off with timeliness. We have had various measures of collecting data and measuring our system's performance that haven't exactly translated to accurate or good reports that are easy for us to digest. We want to change that, and we are actively working on changing that with the implementation of our new transit software and tablets that we're installing in the buses. That software is going to have GTFS, which is sort of this live system where if you've ever used public transit in a larger city, you know on Google Maps how you can kind of see when a bus is coming at a bus stop. It's basically that technology, and we are going to adopt it into our buses. We've got the cream of the crop when it comes to software for transit data collection and live tracking. So this will allow us to better collect data and actually set performance measures that we can measure for the first time, really. And some of these are examples of performance measures, various targets that we can set, and that is one of the main things we want to look into, like quantifiable performance measures. Predictability. I think one key thing about transit that is important to people is predictability, because for as good of a model that on-demand or dial-a-ride can be, there is nothing that beats going to a bus stop, knowing when the bus comes every day, and taking that bus. It is a lot more accessible, especially to older folks who might not want to download some random app that their transit agency released and try and figure that one out. And that's if the app actually works as intended. It's just much easier to find out, oh, my bus is coming at this time, I'm gonna get like $1.50, and then I'll be on my way. Frequency. Frequency is also another aspect that we really want to focus on. And we want to assess whether our service is frequent enough and how we can improve the frequency. This is actually the Emerald Express. This is the bus that I took in college when I lived in Eugene, Oregon, and it ran every 10 minutes. So if I missed the bus, I wouldn't have to worry about when my next bus was coming. I'd just, I'd wait around. Like, I'm 5 minutes late for the bus, I wait another 5 minutes, and then another one's right there. And the stations were also very nice. They had ticket machines at the station, so you could pay your fare before going on the bus. They were kind of designed like rail stations. I think it's a very cool example of a transit system not too far from us. Now, transit operations are not the only thing that affect the performance of your transit. It's land use. Land use is key because it allows you to have an efficiently ran transit system that is not just picking up people from 3 or 4 houses that surround a bus stop. You have 3 or 4 single-family houses around a bus stop, you are limiting your rider base. If you have it in dense areas where you have a rider base that lives there, that shops there, then we're talking. Now, here is an example of a land use pattern that is incompatible with transit. It discourages transit ridership. And I would tell you where this is in the United States, but it honestly could be just about anywhere. This is in San Jose. These are 2 bus stops in San Jose. These land uses are not conducive to transit, and luckily, we know which land uses are conducive to transit. These are some AI-generated images that I made because I looked for some images of transit-oriented land uses, and a lot of them were from big cities, and I wanted ones that captured a more rural and small-town character with lower-rise buildings. So I'm not saying this is what needs to happen, but I'm saying that these are some images to get you guys thinking. What kind of land uses will support transit? So this is also just kind of a graphic about how transit planning and land use planning and park planning all kind of go together. It's not just, they're not just things that can operate independently of each other. And this kind of illustrates how your transportation plan influences your transit plan, which influences your development codes, which influences recreation plans, bike ped plans, and then the circle continues. Now, transit awareness. What I mean by transit awareness is the feeling that there is a presence of a transit system, of a public transit system that is worth taking. And that includes facilities like bus stops, bus shelters, signage. It also includes pedestrian improvements and bicycle facilities to be able to connect people to a bus stop. Because one of the main drivers of going to a bus stop is being able to get there safely. Now, I want to go into detail about these signs right here. We actually got some new signs that are to be put up very shortly, and this will help with that transit awareness. It'll help get transit in people's heads again, which isn't the only thing we need to be doing, but it is definitely something. This is actually a very, very unique example of a cool, innovative trick that you can do with bus shelters. These are solar phone chargers that are built into bus shelters. It's one part of incentivizing people to use transit is there are these things that you think, oh, I can only do that in my car. That's why I want to drive. It might not be the only reason, but it kind of nudges you towards driving, like being able to charge your phone. This is like one part of giving people those amenities that they think they can only have in their cars. Now, connectivity. This is from the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. They posted a very, very detailed guide on how to design transit, bicycle, and pedestrian facilities all together. And it really shows how much more appealing a journey to your bus stop can be if you have a really nice sidewalk, a bicycle lane that is separated from traffic. And the really good news about something like this is that it really can be a transit project if you do these in close proximity to transit stops. It can also be a safe routes to school project if that transit stop is near a school, or the transit route is used to get kids to school. This is an example of a really, really nice raised intersection. And the key thing about a raised intersection is that it takes the concept of speed bumps and puts them where they are the most effective. It puts them at the conflict points that you have between roads. And in addition to that, it gives those crossing the benefits of a level crossing. So if you are in a wheelchair, there's no, I have to go into the street, down this ramp, and go back up this ramp to go onto a sidewalk. It's all level. When it rains, you don't have giant puddles at the bottom of the ramps. And this is just one of the many tools that we can use to create a more transit-friendly environment in our urbanized areas of the county. Well, improving safety for bicyclists and pedestrians, just people in general, we can do these two things simultaneously. And here's just another image. I like the visuals. I think it helps, right? I don't like walls of text. But that's the difference. I mean, it removes that barrier of being able to walk to a transit stop with a feeling of safety versus being tempted to drive. So let's move on to mobility hubs. Mobility hubs can come in any shape or size, and there is no solid one definition for what a mobility hub could be. They are somewhat of a central place where various modes of transportation interact. This is a very nice graphic that I found, and it shows a nice separated bicycle path, some bus lanes, and it is a slightly more urbanized setting, but it does kind of illustrate the whole concept of this mobility hub. You have lockers. People can lock up their stuff, they can lock up their bike helmet, and also there's like Amazon lockers where you can pick up packages, and car share, car chargers for EVs, bicycle racks, bike share, and food vendors. It's kind of like a one-stop shop for multi-modality. And yeah, it's a central space where all of these modes come together. So I want to return to those three key factors: productivity, land use, and safety. I think these are some of the many strategies that we can examine to move our transit towards a service that is utilized by our public. We'd like to explore these factors so we can develop strategies, pair them with rider feedback, and create an actual, tangible plan to enhance our transit services with the urgency that the current situation demands. So for the year ahead, we've already got some things in the pipeline. We've got our unmet transit needs survey, which the surveys have gone out on the buses. The notice of public hearing has been posted. We'll be having that hearing at the next meeting on March 21st. We have a new transit operations RFP coming up too, and we are looking into a new operator. We have new signage, new shelters that are coming down the pipeline this year, and our, as I had mentioned, our software and data collection methods. And a planning study in itself to capture our next generation transit needs. This is just the beginning, though. 2024, it is the year of transit. And we really need to think outside of the box. We need to think differently than just any other American city or county. We need some creativity. And I think that we all have the creativity to make some real changes happen when it comes to our transit this year. Any questions?
Any questions from the public?
No one on Zoom.
Nobody out there? Any questions? We'll start. Mindy, I'm sure you have one.
I just want to say, Keen, great job on this presentation. I think you did really, really well. I think it's exciting to see some of the potential. I mean, it's definitely discouraging to see less than 1% are using the transit, but where can we take this using kind of out-of-the-box thinking? And so I'm excited to start this journey and see what we can do to offer more transit and get people using it, because it's really hard to sit up here and allocate funding and things like that with less than 1% of our population using it. And so I would love to, hopefully next year we can look and be like, oh my gosh, we've jumped 10%. But I'm excited, and I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions?
Not a question, just I was going to say both of you, it was great presentations, and I'm excited about some of these possibilities, because the easier you make it for people to take the bus and the more reliable it is, the more people will be taking it. I've read studies about, in South America where they did just some little incremental changes and they went up to like 30% ridership. So you're on the right track, I think. And so I'm real excited to see some of the potential things we can do this year. So it is the year of transit. I agree with you.
Thank you.
I think this is great, and being so new on COG, it's exciting to see where the future could be. Now, some of the things I get a little confused with is I love the raised intersections. I'm very supportive of those. I'm all about the raised sidewalks, the crosswalks where, children at schools are higher so they can be seen. How does that work with transit projects versus development projects? So like if I'll use the county. I won't use the city. You're welcome. But let's say the county's doing a Santana Ranch type thing, since it's in the unincorporated area right now. And instead of looking at it just as bike paths, crosswalks, and walking paths or sidewalks, if we are, as the county, are looking at a development like that, where do you come in and say, okay, we want raised sidewalks? So do you help raised crosswalks? Do you help fund those raised crosswalks? Or is it on the county to put those raised crosswalks in? Because I'm just seeing, we need to start the conversation, and I'm seeing how our planning and future land use really needs to be looking at these options and things, and then also educating our residents and developers about what it means to develop in San Benito County. We're not just taking half of a paved road anymore. And that's really, truly, that's from experience. No, we want full roads paved. We want full sidewalks put in. We want a bike path, where we're showing these developers that if you're going to develop here, we want quality development that incorporates our transit needs.
And I think that's an incredibly good question, and I do need to fully look into it a little bit more to see what that translates to, and I will definitely get back to you with a full answer. But a short answer would be based on how it generally works in land use, where you have design standards that are required, public works design standards, and those design standards are what the developer has to follow. They are clear and objective standards, and if they aren't updated, then the developer doesn't really have to do any more than what is required. So I think there's a conversation that needs to happen with the county, with cities, and just all our jurisdictions to see what people want out of that and what we want out of new projects. Because capital projects are mainly for existing areas. The thing about new developments is that it gives you the opportunity to get some of that infrastructure without putting capital resources towards it, without the county fully bearing that cost. So I think that's really crucial, and that's a really good point to raise, and I want to look into it a little bit more, and I will send you an email.
Okay, sounds good. What I'm looking at is, putting all the burden on developers sometimes stops development, stops growth. So how do we find a happy balance here where we can get what we're looking for and not lose out on where we might be able to grow? So just my 2 cents. And thank you so much. Great presentations today.
Yes, thank you. Both of you had great presentations. I agree with what you just said about this has to be in stone before these projects start. And another key is our planners and our planning commissions actually talking to each other, and educating each other. Sometimes things slip through the cracks when things get hectic. That's coming from a planning commissioner from 4 years. Another thing I'm excited about, and this is something Benito and I have been talking about, and Director Casey, the bus stops. We have these stacks of bus stops, and once we get these, I think we get these nice, clean, well-signed bus stops in, well-lit, well-signed bus stops, people are going to see them and say, oh, you actually do have a transit system here? And then the key is what I brought up last meeting, maintenance. Make sure that they're clean, well-kept, the lighting's still working. Lighting is key. And we can even go as far as putting, emergency, locators on them type of thing, like, you see at college campuses and things like that. I think, in a darker neighborhood, that would probably, some of the neighborhoods don't have a lot of lighting. That would probably be huge. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll share a story. I spoke to Director Casey and Benito about, I was driving into town a month and a half ago when we were having one of those real serious storms, and right at the entrance of town where the little mobile home park is on the right-hand side, there's a bus stop. And there was a woman standing there, and she must have been in her 80s, and she was drenched, waiting for the bus. And it ruined my day, knowing that I'm one of the people that should be helping her be able to at least stand in safety and wait for a bus. I mean, I just thought, gosh, I couldn't imagine my grandmother standing out in the rain because she has to go to Nob Hill Pharmacy to get her prescription or go grocery shopping. So I'm super happy to see that we're moving forward with making our transit system look a little better, and I'm really happy to hear about the RFP and going forward and finding an outfit that may be a little more efficient for us. And hopefully they come with some experts that can help us with our new fleet, which is huge, right? We're talking about this new fleet. Everything's got to change here pretty soon. So it's all about, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have
Okay.
one more quick question. Just the shelters that we have that are sitting there, are there going to be benches for people to sit on, or is it just a standing shelter, or do we know?
I am looking at Norma to see if she has any answer. I don't know the answer. That's okay, Norma. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
We have benches. We
Okay.
have 4 right now, and we purchased them already, so the equipment is there. We just have to go through the process of going out to bid so that we can have them installed. And finding a route, a permanent bus route, that's the other piece, right? We can't install the infrastructure unless we know the bus stop's going to be there for a very long time.
Yeah, it's a multi-step process. We need to first identify the routes that we are going to operate, because during COVID, we canceled a lot of our routes. And now that we have some money for transit, we're going to see what are the best routes that we want to put back in, because it's not just about putting a route. The operational cost of maintaining that route needs to be also taken into account. So with that, then we establish, with the routes, we establish the stops, and then we put in the stop sign and, like you said, the safety features of well-lit stops and and maybe even a park and ride structure or something like that. It's a multi-step process, but we will be looking into it.
And on that line, the new software we're getting, that's going to help us with identifying what are our frequently used stops or more usage. Will that help with that?
Yes, we will be counting how many people board the bus at each stop and how many people get off the bus. So that will kind of give us a picture. And that software is it's coming into effect fairly soon. We are demoing it next week, and that's moving ahead. We are going to set up the tablets and get them installed in the buses soon too. So it will open a lot of really exciting possibilities with the additional feature that instead of just getting an Excel spreadsheet from our contractor, we will be getting that data sent directly to us from the collection devices. So there is no middleman that data is passing through.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you. Any other? Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to number 9. Receive monthly Caltrans District 5 construction project reports.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Orchid Monroy Ochoa, and I'm acting for ex officio for Caltrans on behalf of Scott Eads. He wasn't able to attend. The project update list that I have for updates for project number 1 is Highway 156 25 Turbo Roundabout project. For that update, the project is expected to be completed February 2024, weather permitting. Project number 2, Highway 156 Improvement Project. Caltrans District 5 Traffic Operations and Safety received a signed resolution from the San Benito County Board of Supervisors requesting safety changes that include limiting the ability of drivers to make left turns on the county roads onto Highway 156 eastbound during the afternoon hours. Signage was implemented on January 29, 2024. For project number 3 on the Highway 25 curve alignment, there are no updates for this meeting. For project number 4, Hollister Clean, California, there is no updates. And the same goes for project 5 and 6, no updates for this month. And project number 7, Highway 25 Expressway conversion, the first workshop was conducted on January 31st, and the second workshop is going to be scheduled by San Benito COG. Project number 8, the Rocks US 101 Wildlife Connectivity Project. The project initiation document is being routed for final review and is anticipated to be completed February 2024. Is there any questions from the board members on any of the projects mentioned?
From the public? Anybody out here? Nope. Okay, any questions from, no? Questions?
Just one comment. So for the Hollister Clean California, I'm just very happy to say that the trees have gone in and there's lots of plants going in. So it's looking really nice. So that's exciting.
That's exciting to hear. I'm looking forward to driving there personally and checking it out. There's the murals and everything that Clean California has done in that area. Just very, very pretty to go see in the area of Monterey and San Benito County. So I definitely need to take a tour over there.
Thank you. It looks like, is 9 and 10 the same? Pretty much the same? New are we?
9. I'm sorry.
I think it's pretty much the same thing you just did. Is there anything different on the Caltrans report, correspondence, verbal report?
For no, other than I guess we're excited to hear about the Assembly Speaker Robert Rivas appoints San Benito County Leader Bob Tiffany to California Transportation Commission. It is exciting news, especially since there's never been a commissioner on the CTC from the Central Coast. So congratulations.
there's never been a,
It's pretty cool.
so the Central Coast, even the folks down in Santa Barbara call themselves Central Coast. So from there all the way to Santa Cruz County, there's never been a, that's just, that's hard to swallow, but awesome news then, great. And he picked a good person, so I'm happy to hear that. Any questions? Ready? Okay. Number 11, Executive Director's Report.
Hi, good afternoon. So I just want to mention that we have a new legal counsel and they are participating virtually today. I don't know if Oz or Kirk wants to say anything, but we are very happy to have them. They are already on the ground running, so I am so happy. We pulled them into a couple of meetings already. We are asking them for advice and going good. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we are planning a strategic planning meeting on March 1st with the board. So that would be a great place for us to create some vision for what we are trying to achieve in the next few years, some goal setting. We are planning to go to Sacramento for a legislative day on March 20th. And I think our rep is Supervisor Kuro. We'll be planning to visit and talk to all our legislators then. Next week, I'm planning to attend the county's legislature day. And we will be talking about Highway 25 briefly. And to be determined, and it's going to come to you soon, you asked us for coming up with some community engagement plan. It's in the work. We will make sure to bring you back some ideas so that we can brainstorm on what exactly you would like to see and how to make it happen. That's all from me. And I would ask if Oz or Kirk wants to add anything.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to tell you what a pleasure it is to be working with you. We have hit the ground running. Enjoyed having a meeting today with Speaker Rivas's office, along with Commissioner Tiffany and the county CAO, along with Benito, regarding your very important project on Highway 25. And we're looking forward to meeting with you at the strategic planning meeting on March 1st. So thanks, glad to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Likewise, happy to be here. I've had an opportunity to work with staff and kind of familiarize myself with kind of the governing structure of the board. So I look forward to continuing to work with staff and learning more and seeing everyone at the strategic planning session.
Okay, any questions for our new team? Anything? Great. Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah,
Right.
Just
welcome.
super happy to have him.
Good. First week and you're already in the speaker's office. How about that? Okay, number 12, Board of Directors reports. Have anything? Anything?
I just have one. I had prepared that we wanted to do the highlights, and so you were gonna give me back some comments so we could get it out. Yeah, and some photos. That's it.
Angela, anything? You guys good? And good news, social media on the roundabout is very positive today. I guess all lanes are open and moving, so there were actually happy people on their social media pages, which is great. We don't have to take a beating anymore. Okay, let's see. And that's the last move to adjourn this meeting.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then as far as moving on, the regular meetings of the Local Transportation Authority, Measure A, Airport Land Use, and Service Authority for Freeways and Expressways were all canceled. Is that good, Norma? Okay, good. Okay, thank you.